It's Miami's Community News, and today we're going to be talking about mosquitoes, and we have a mosquito professional, all right? And tell us your name again.
My name is Isik Unlu.
So, doctor, you are now you have a new title because you're doing some new things, so tell us about that.
I am acting director for mosquito control in Miami-Dade County.
Okay. And you've been in the mosquito business for how long?
So I came to Louisiana State University in 2003. Since then, I wake up mosquitoes, go to bed mosquitoes.
You love them.
Yes.
Do you ever have any pet mosquitoes?
I do have some in my office right now.
See?
Yeah.
And you take really good care of them.
Yes, I feed them with my own blood. I give them sugar, water, and apples sometimes, whatever I can find around.
But they're typically not around for too long. How long do these little flying critters last?
3 weeks to a month, I would say.
And do the guys die sooner than the ladies?
You got that one right.
It sounds familiar, doesn't it? So let's talk about how the department becomes aware of mosquitoes throughout Miami-Dade County. What does the county do to do that?
Our mosquito control division is constantly doing surveillance, meaning that we have over 300 traps going out every week to certain areas in the county, and then we pick them up after 24 hours, and we have a team of lab technicians who go through those traps, count them, sex them, and then also identify them to species.
So you have these traps that attract the mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. They go into this trap, you take them out from the trap, you take them into the laboratory, and how do you count them?
You need to put them on.
There's one guy.
No. What happens is we call it cold chain. Sounds really fancy, right? So the technicians, we have surveillance technicians who set up those traps and picks them up from the field. They put them on dry ice. As soon as they get the net with the mosquitoes, it goes onto a dry ice. And then when they arrive to mosquito control, it goes into our -20 freezers. And then when the technicians are IDing them, we call them chill tables. So it's a cold table. They do process them, count them, put them in vials, and they go back to either -20 or -80. So we have this cold chain in case we want to test them for any virus surveillance.
So for the uninitiated, what I heard you say that there are different brands, different styles, different subspecies of mosquitoes.
Correct.
More or less, down here in South Florida, in Miami-Dade and Broward and Monroe, how many different types are there?
I think we're pushing for 60 because I'm sure there are more. We just couldn't get to them yet. But we have a great team of lab technicians who are very well trained. And we make sure that they always go to training sessions to be up to date with their knowledge. So whenever I'm asked, like, oh, do you have this species? Do you have that species? I can confidently say either we have it or not, because nothing passed through those individuals. They're really good at what they're doing. And if we get anything new in the horizon, they are knowledgeable enough to determine that we get something new in the traps.
When they're IDing them, is it typically through a magnifying glass? Or?
Microscope. We have microscope.
Microscope, so you look at it. So give us the name of a couple of them, some of your ones you know offhand. All right, so go ahead.
So they can have, most of the time, Aedes aegypti. We have Culex quinquefasciatus.
You guys getting all of this?
Aedes triseriatus. And you're right, one time, I was tasked to do Zika training while we had Zika outbreak here in Miami. Our National Association, American Mosquito Control Association, had a grant from CDC, and we wanted to train everyone who's not really knowledgeable about Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. And I am the committee chair for their training and member education. So I was tasked to do the training together, and we had e-learning modules. And so these people who talk over the material that we provide them has no background on mosquito control, right? So when I first heard the recordings, I'm like, excuse me, what did they just say? And I'm like, no, we can't do this. Like, we started recording our voices. Aedes albopictus, 80s Triceratops, and then, those people start, because these are not the names that you see every day.
In here in Miami-Dade County, are there certain types of mosquitoes that transmit certain types of diseases?
Correct.
So when you talked about Zika, which was down here, how many years ago was that?
That was 2016 to 2017.
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
So we would read here, see, Zika's virus on Miami Beach and over there in Wynwood and different areas. How were you able to say it's only over here? Isn't it a block over or 10 blocks over? Or do you have traps in the other areas and then you're not seeing that particular type of mosquito flying farther west?
Well, a very complex question, but based on what happened in 2016, we call them clusters. If you have, more than one person in a very small area, and they keep, getting these cases of either dengue or Zika, that just, that's a flag. That means, the disease is circulating and making people sick. And if, it could be on the other block as well, but, if there's only one person is sick, it's not like, there's a cycle of disease going from one neighbor to another and another and another. So it's not, taking any attention towards it because it's just either a one isolated situation.
Doctor, how long has the county been monitoring mosquitoes?
Well, county has been monitoring the mosquitoes as long as they have been around, but
you mean the county or the mosquitoes?
Mosquito, no, the Miami-Dade mosquito control. Sorry, but it was very limited. We had like 24 to 25 CDC light traps, and they were focused on collecting black-legged salt marsh mosquitoes, which is a nuisance mosquito. There's no record or publication or evidence available showing that species has ever started any disease outbreak in human population. So it's nuisance, and it's really not something that you can just ignore, because when these mosquitoes in high numbers, like you really feel like they're gonna pick you up and fly away with you. They are in great numbers.
So I keep reading about resistance monitoring. What does that mean, resistance monitoring? I'm lost.
Okay, this is one of my favorite topics, and it's not because just like it's a scientific curiosity, because it's a daily challenge for us in our division in mosquito control. So just like, the antibiotics, I think people are more familiar with that. If you misuse antibiotics and when you get sick, you take it and it starts not working because, the bacteria starts building resistance, and the antibiotics we use doesn't, cure us anymore.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Okay.
So same thing with the mosquitoes. Let's say I have 10 mosquitoes, just to be hypothetical. I have 10 mosquitoes that I want to kill. And I have the chemical to spray on them to be able to kill. Each time I do that, let's say one of them stays alive, flies away, gives those genes which allow that individual to survive through that toxin to others. And the next time I come back again, I have 10 mosquitoes. This time I have 2 alive. They do the 3, 4, 5. So if I keep using the same toxin, they're exposed to the same stress, right? I'm stressing them with the same chemical over and over for a long amount of time. So what happens is you get to a point like you have 10 mosquitoes and you have the same chemical, but nobody dies. They just shower in it. They don't die.
And that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. And then what happens is, when it's a nuisance, it's one thing, but when you're faced with a disease situation, the first thing the mosquito control professionals do is to kill adults, because the aim is to kill those gravid females, which means they already took blood meal at some point in her life. Meaning if you had dengue, a female mosquito bite you, and then you don't want that mosquito come and bite me as well, because there's a chance that I get dengue as well. So when we do the adulticide, we're targeting that female who took blood meal from you, and just to prevent the second blood meal. So if you can't prevent that, because that's first line of defense, you can do larviciding to kill the larvae, you can do other things, but as long as that girl is flying around who took a blood meal from you, your population is vulnerable. You must kill those females.
So for clarity, if somebody is allergic to a certain type of food, if they go to the doctor, at some point they can inject them with certain products so that they won't be as allergic to it. Do I have that right? Yeah. How do you get resistant to it? Because, all right, are you familiar with it or not?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. So what if by desensitizing
I see.
the body to that, all right, you learn to deal with it. Maybe not quite as good as you'd like. And the same with the mosquitoes that have been around for millions and millions of years. They know how to do it.
Correct.
Which is to stay alive.
Yeah, it's all about being alive and getting those genes to the next generation. That's all the purpose.
And so you have around 300 traps in Miami-Dade County. Typically are those in clusters, or are they spread out throughout the county?
It's pretty spread out. I mean, of course, we have more in certain areas like Miami Beach, because there's more activity there, like Wynwood. We have...
when you say more activity of people?
Both. More activity of people, more activity of mosquitoes. So it's a little bit of both. So we don't have, a bunch of traps by the Everglades, because, scientifically it's interesting what you get in those traps, but we don't have people to worry about, getting sick or getting bit over there. So we don't have many traps.
So often people say, why don't those mosquitoes from wherever they are just fly everywhere? So would an Everglades mosquito wind up on Miami Beach?
It could, because we have mosquito species can fly 3, 5, even with the help of the winds, 10 miles. So, if it could, get in your car, you could even go. Or there are so many ways that for them to travel. With the winds, they do travel a lot.
So how do the mosquitoes stay alive when we have big rainstorms? How does that work?
I don't know. They hide. Right? I'm curious, where do they hide?
Where do they go?
I don't know.
Where do the birds go?
Under the vegetation, underground. Some of them finds the buildings to hide in. Even in temperate climate, some mosquitoes just go into the basements or abandoned structures, and they go through that harsh winters just being inside.
Let's talk about these mosquitoes. Where do they typically, if there is such a thing, lay their eggs? And how long does it take for them to hatch?
Oh, it depends. There's so many different ways to do it. But I think just to generalize it, there are mosquitoes who does actually lay their eggs in one single egg. And those are usually, resistant to drought. They could be sitting in somewhere dry for months and months. But then the mosquitoes who lay their eggs like in little clusters and little boats, and we call them egg rafts, those needs to be laid on top of the water, and they hatch in few days.
So mosquitoes can lay eggs on dry things, and they can last like that if they're not eaten by something else for a long time.
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. I know.
And then all of a sudden you go, how come there's so many mosquitoes? So let's talk about mosquitoes lay their eggs in places and they purposely do that where they're not going to get wet because they anticipate it will be wet.
Correct. Some of them, believe it or not, they do that on purpose because they need to go through a period with the eggs that has to be dry.
The eggs have to be dry for
Correct.
some.
It needs to be exposed to, dry conditions before it floods again and hatch.
So sometimes we'll hear, gee, there's been some big rainstorms, so expect the mosquitoes along that line. So I know mosquitoes are around all the time, but what times of the year down here in Miami-Dade County are worse than others?
Well, usually our season starts end of April. I would say any time after the second week of April, we start seeing the number of mosquitoes going up in our traps until the end of November. And then after that, you start seeing better numbers, zeros and ones. I love to see those numbers, but then you do get those blips, 24, 25, 30.
So when you're out collecting the mosquitoes from different parts of the county, can you anticipate how long it would be before you start getting phone calls from the neighbors saying, hey, we got a lot of mosquitoes?
Yes, if you do go and we call it ground proofing. If you are seeing the larvae in certain habitats, you know that if you don't do something about it, you're going to start seeing the numbers.
Okay, so what is it that the county does proactively when they look in the bag, and how many could be in a bag typically, might be, in one of the bags, the collecting bags?
It depends. Some species could be over 1,000. Some species could be like 20 to 25.
So if there are 1,000 out there, and so what does the county do when they go, there's 1,000 out here, and typically there aren't. Let's say there's 10 or 20 or 30. What is it the county does proactively?
Because, we know the seasonality. We do larviciding as much as we can.
And what does that include?
That includes that we use all our larviciding products are some type of biological control and product. So it means we're using bacteria or the toxins of bacteria to apply to these habitats where the water is sitting. And then when and it could be even before it's flooded, you can apply these pesticides when it floods and the mosquito starts coming around, because the technology for the pesticides are, getting advanced as well. So by the time they hatch, the little balls of the larvicide start fizzing and releasing the bacteria or the toxin in the water, and then it starts killing whatever is hatched.
And how does the pesticide get applied? When you look at the back, is it by a back spray? Is it by a truck, or
a little bit of all? Because all the cases we have is different, and then accessibility is different. If we don't have full access, we use our buffalo turbines, which are mounted in the back of our trucks, and we use those to apply the larvicide. Sometimes it's roadside that we have some water there, then the inspectors walk and treat those areas with a backpack. And it sometimes just takes that you need to put a product just in a tire or a bird bath. It's tedious, but based on what the situation is, you can do it manually. You can use a backpack. We use a truck, and we're hoping that we can also use a helicopter to treat those salt marsh mosquitoes, because usually, even if I say like majority of the time, ground teams, they don't have an access to those areas, if that makes sense. They can't go and apply pesticides. So we were targeting to do that too. So when we have those problem in the beginning of our rainy season around May, we want to just suppress them as soon as they hatch, so we won't get those 5,000 calls in June.
and so what are some of the new things in the past couple of years that the county is doing to monitor and to effectively take care of our mosquito problem?
we increased the number of traps in the county. That's one thing. We had around 175, so we almost over doubled the numbers. And then we also added a new pesticide to our larviciding program. And also we are, because of the resistance problem, we tested a new adulticiding and we got good results. So we're hoping that we will be able to integrate this to our program. We're looking into Wolbachia technology in areas that we do use whatever is available right now, but we're still getting high numbers in the traps. So we're hoping, to use that technology because it's environmentally friendly. There's no chemicals. It's just that we're releasing, the technology is releasing mosquitoes. And, then what happens is when they mate with the wild population, there's no viable eggs, no viable offsprings. And also what's very popular is drone use. In mosquito control, we definitely want to do surveillance. Again, those areas that we don't have access with the ground teams.
So a drone is going to be able to take pictures, and you'll be able to see mosquitoes.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that we can do it in the salt marsh areas. Like, it's not even taking pictures. It could, but when the operator hovers over those habitats, you can see it. And then there's also technology, which will be my second step, hopefully, in our teams. The drone can plop to the water and then collect water. And then the camera can show you if the wiggle larvae is there. It's amazing. Amazing.
I've just heard on the radio where a blind 11-year-old Labrador retriever got lost. Got the drone and they found him.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that's amazing. So let me go. So the drone not only can take pictures, but it can go into the water, pull up some water, and then the camera can take a picture about what's in the water to see if there's mosquitoes in there or larvae.
Correct. And then the other thing, you can also apply larvicide with the drones. And the good thing is with that, with airplanes and helicopters, you need to do more area-wide application. With drones, it's very precise targeting, right? So it plopped in a water in salt marsh, and then you can only treat that water, and then you're done. You're not putting chemicals. Lots of savings in the residents, the taxpayer money doing such a precise application. So I like the idea of, just not being all over the place and targeting where you and focusing where you're supposed to be.
And that's sort of like with the Zika, when you had it down there, is it just in these two relatively small areas? By the way, what are some of the symptoms of Zika?
Well, we don't focus on the disease part of the Zika, but usually all the mosquito-borne disease, feverish. It's like a cold. That's also why it's very difficult to diagnose. Feverish, you're tired. And
so if you were a doctor and you get paid, I don't know what's wrong with me, and it was from a mosquito, are they going to find it?
I mean, especially in Miami, I'm guessing most of them, when you see those keywords. I was in Cuba. I went to Brazil. I have fever. I'm not feeling 100%.
So that's what they're looking for.
If I was a medical doctor, I would have definitely ordered, a panel of looking at dengue, Zika, chikungunya, all those.
There we go. We finally got it out of her. Right. So let me ask you. So when the weather changes here in South Florida, we don't have much of a change, but we have our fall. I think we maybe already had our fall, all right? But we know, next month and for a couple of months, it's going to get a little cooler. What does that mean as far as monitoring, and what does that mean for reproduction of mosquitoes?
Well, monitoring doesn't stop. We constantly monitor, so that'll continue. We just hope that, all that requests that are coming from the Health Department of Health will go down. The number of mosquitoes will go down. So, there's going to be a point that, it's going to be really slow. the trap numbers are going to go down, which means that it's going to trigger less treatment because we have thresholds. Let's say we have a trap that has 10 Aedes aegypti that tells me, even without a resident calls, you need to go there and do something. Something is going on. The numbers in the trap is higher than what you wish to see.
So you're one of you, if I interpret this right, if the trap's got a lot of them, you know that it's in that area. That's and then you already know scientifically how far out they were going to be, and
Correct.
you treat that area.
Correct.
So I know that you have these 300 plus traps in Miami-Dade County. Does that include cities?
Yes.
Okay. So each of the cities probably have some of your traps in there, as well as
definitely.
all unincorporated.
Correct.
Dade County. Do you work with the state on projects? The state of Florida?
Oh yeah, we do work with the universities definitely. We also our mosquito pools goes to the state laboratories to get tested for dengue. We do work with all the stakeholders. For resistance work, we work with USDA. We do work with the state health department. They constantly guide us and ask us if we need support. I would like to thank them, and also the county health department. They constantly support us. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, they gave us a bunch of their team members to help inspect and reduce and eliminate mosquito habitats in the county, because we all know that we're in a time that we're getting all these dengue cases, but we are reaching out all stakeholders to help. I had a meeting with the CDC dengue branch and asked them and tried to get their advice and perspective, and told them what we're doing, and they were impressed. And then they told us what we can do more to better, because there's always a room for improvement, right? And I'm not embarrassed to say that. And I love all the comments I received. So I think one of my strengths is that I know, I can't know everything, but I know the people who knows things, or if they don't know, they know who else would know. And I'm never embarrassed to ask, I don't know, I need help. And then, especially when the human health is on stake, I go around, pick everybody's brain, and make the program better and better every day with the support of the team.
So if a resident of Miami-Dade County needs some help, they could dial 311, and they could ask away there, or they could go to the website, miamidade.gov/mosquitoes.
All of the above. When we have app, right? All the DSWM apps, website, and then 311.
And so they call 311 and say, listen, my house I got mosquitoes all over. Mm-hmm. And they get somebody from the department, are we going to call them back or email them back and then ask some questions?
Sure. I mean, if they have I just talked to a resident on Friday. If they have specific questions, and usually those are when we get these dengue cases and it's released on media, right? And the questions like, what do you do more? What do you do more? And then, I told them what we're doing. And she was very happy. Yeah, I don't have any problem. I mean, I don't think I can call hundreds of people a day. I wish I could, but I do make those calls, definitely.
And we have 1 minute left. And so if somebody if they have a lot of mosquitoes, they can call 311, and then somebody from that department is going to respond somehow to them, and they might send somebody out.
Within 48 hours, we're overachievers. And within 48 hours, they're going to see our team members.
All right. And they're going to figure out, they're going to go to your property, they're going to talk to you and figure out maybe they got some old tires, some old dog, cat bowls that are still filled with water.
Correct.
Or they got the plants out front and they're just holding water, and come up with some answers for them.
Correct. Yep.
Doctor, thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you.
And I'm glad mosquitoes are part of your life, because I don't know how you do it, but God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And folks, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you.